All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack an idea so powerful, it completely rewired how we think about reality itself. This comes from the mind of Immanuel Kant, and his big claim is that the world you see, the world you experience every day, that isn't the world as it really is. Sounds wild, right? Let's get into it.
So let's start with a massive question. I mean, what is the world really like? Take away you, take away me, take away all human consciousness, what's left? What is the fundamental nature of reality itself? This isn't just a random thought. It's the question that has literally kept philosophers tossing and turning for centuries.
And for the longest time, philosophy was just stuck. The whole conversation was trapped in this endless tug of war. On one side, you had thinkers saying, nope, reality is all physical stuff, atoms and void. And on the other, you had people arguing, no, it's all mental, it's consciousness, it's spirit. It was this constant back and forth, and honestly, they weren't getting anywhere.
And then Immanuel Kant walks onto the scene. He looks at this whole mess, this centuries-old argument, and he basically says, hold on, everybody, you're all asking the wrong question. He proposed this totally radical idea. He said, forget trying to figure out the world out there for a minute. What if the key is to first understand the very structure of our own minds and how we experience things?
And that right there, that was his revolutionary question. He's saying, before we can even begin to talk about what reality is, we have to get a handle on the rules of the game, the rules inside our own heads. Let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Okay, so to tackle this, Kant does something brilliant. He slices reality right down the middle into two very different versions. Now, this is absolutely crucial. It's the foundation for everything else he's going to say. So let's break it down. So here's the split. On one side, you've got what Kant calls the noumena. Think of this as the world in itself. Reality with a capital R, raw, unfiltered, totally independent of us. And on the other side, you have the phenomena. This is the world as it appears to us, the world we actually live in and experience. And here's the kicker, the big insight. Kant says we are permanently locked on this side. We can only ever know the phenomenal world.
Right, so this noumenal world, that's the ultimate reality. The thing in itself, as he famously called it. Now, Kant wasn't a skeptic. He wasn't saying it's not real. Oh no, he was sure it's out there. But his point was, it's forever beyond our direct reach. We can never experience it raw. Trying to know the noumenal world directly, it's kind of like trying to see your own eye without using a mirror. It's the thing doing the seeing, so it can't see itself.
The phenomenal world, though, that's our playground. That's everything we can and do know. It's the world of science, it's the coffee in your cup, it's this explainer, it's every single thing you see, hear, and touch. And it's super important to get this. It's not a fake world. It's not an illusion. It's just the world after it's been processed and structured for us, by our minds.
So, if our minds are structuring reality, how exactly does that work? What's going on under the hood? Well, this is where Kant drops another bombshell. He says the mind isn't just sitting back and watching the show. It's not a passive observer. It's an active, hands-on participant in building the reality we experience.
See, before Kant came along, the dominant idea was that the mind is basically like a mirror. It just passively reflects whatever reality beams at it. And the thinking went, if we could just polish that mirror and get rid of all the smudges, we'd get a perfect one-to-one copy of the world.
Kant looked at that and said, no way. He completely flipped the script. He said the mind isn't a mirror, it's more like a factory. Or maybe a better modern analogy is a computer processor. It takes in all this raw, messy, chaotic data from the outside world, from the noumena, and it actively assembles it into the neat, orderly, structured experience we call reality. So, what's the basic software for this mental factory? What's the operating system? Kant's answer here is just mind-blowing. He says it's space and time. And get this, he argued that space and time are not out there in the world at all. Instead, they are the built-in framework of our minds. They're like a pair of goggles that we are born with and can never, ever take off. Everything we perceive, every single sensation has to first pass through these lenses of space and time before it even reaches our consciousness. But okay, just plotting things on a grid of space and time isn't enough, right? That just gives you a bunch of data points. To turn all that sensory static into a world that actually makes sense, a world of objects and causes and effects, the mind needs some more sophisticated tools.
And he called these the categories of understanding. You can think of these as the pre-installed apps on the mind's operating system. So, for example, causality. The idea of cause and effect isn't something we learn from the world, it's a category our mind imposes on the world. It's why we can't help but see the first billiard ball causing the second one to move. The same goes for things like unity, which lets us see a bunch of wood and screws as one single thing, a chair, or plurality, which lets us see many chairs. These are the rules that transform chaos into a world we can actually navigate.
Now, if you put all this together, it has absolutely massive consequences for what we can and cannot claim to know. What Kant is doing here is drawing a firm line in the sand, setting up permanent boundaries for human knowledge.
So let's just walk through the logic here. 1. The mind actively structures our experience. 2. Therefore, all the knowledge we have is only about that structured experience, the world of phenomena. This, by the way, is why science is so incredibly reliable. It's exploring the consistent, objective rules of our shared phenomenal world. But, and this is a huge but, it also means that anytime someone tries to make a definitive claim about ultimate reality, about the noumenal world, well, that's just speculation. It's beyond what we can ever prove or disprove.
Okay, I get it. An old German philosopher from the 1700s. Why does any of this still matter? Why should you care about it today? Well, because these ideas are, frankly, more relevant now than they've ever been.
Kant's philosophy gives us this incredible toolkit for making sense of our world. It explains why science is so powerful for telling us how the universe works, but why it hits a brick wall when we ask why. It also helps us understand why we have these deep, unresolvable arguments about things like God, free will, or the soul. People are essentially trying to describe the noumenal world, and because it's unknowable, those arguments can literally never be settled by facts. It requires a certain humility.
And this really gets to the heart of Kant's entire reality revolution. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as it appears to beings like us. Our reality is a joint project, a collaboration between a world we can never touch directly and the mind that gives it a shape we can understand. It's a seriously humbling but also incredibly empowering idea.
You know, some people hear this and think Kant was attacking reason, but it's the exact opposite. He was probably its biggest champion. By drawing a clear boundary around what reason can legitimately do, he was protecting it. He was saving it from overreaching and making claims it could never back up. In a way, by defining its limits, he made reason stronger and more trustworthy than ever before.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Kant showed us that our knowledge has a built-in boundary. There's a limit to what we can know. So if we accept that, if we accept that we can't possibly know everything, then maybe real wisdom isn't about chasing all the answers. Maybe it begins with something simpler, understanding the limits of the questions we can ask in the first place.